Good mythical morning, everyone. Welcome back to Emerald Peaks. If you saw the last episode, you're probably wondering why there's no one in the park right now. Well, the main reason for that is I don't know where to put the guest spawner yet. So the reason you didn't see any footage of the parking lot in the last video is because it was this really ugly setup. I'll try to get that fixed for next episode. But the park in canon is open at this point, so we are in the 1988 season with the setup of rides that I made in the first two episodes. So right now we're going to be working on what's going to be coming in 1989. So the first of two additions the park's going to be getting in 1989 is going to be an arcade building. Now if you've played Planet Coaster, you know that there's actually no arcade games other than a claw machine, so I'm probably just going to be blocking off the entrance. But I wanted the main midway of the park to have its own equivalent of a large building like the Coliseum at Cedar Point, so even if this is just decoration, I wanted to include it. Now I'm not going with any particular theme for the building, since as I mentioned in episode 2, our midway is kind of just generic themed, but I messed around with designs a bit off screen and this one looked pretty good, so I went with it. Now since the last episode of this series, obviously I'm sure you saw that Planet Coaster 2 was announced, and I think it looks really good so far. I'm looking forward to that presentation at the end of the month, and you can expect me to start making videos on that day one. But it also gives me a bit of a timeline for this park, because now I know that I want to get this done by the time Planet Coaster 2 comes out. Otherwise, I don't have a lot to say about this building, so I'm just going to finish it up here, and then we'll talk about what the second edition is. So the second edition this park will get for 1989 is a kids area, because I felt the park was a little too thrill rides focused at the beginning, but I still want there to be things for families to do as well. You'll notice as the episode goes on, this is a pretty small kids area. It's only 2 flat rides, a kiddie coaster, and a couple buildings, and the main reason for that is I'm trying to stay semi-realistic with the park, and a park that just opened probably would be pretty short on money and wouldn't be able to afford a super large kids area. One choice I made, at least for the time being, is I'm going to do custom cues off screen because I wanted to keep most of these episodes under half an hour, and I think custom cues take up a bit too much of that time. If for some reason you guys are huge fans of custom cue footage, you can start an uprising in the comments and I'll bring it back for you. I decided to add a small drink stand in this spot. This isn't going to be part of the main kids area, this is just going to be a midway thing. Moving on to the kids coaster, the model I decided to go with is the Zaire Tivoli, and this is actually an exact clone of Puff the Little Fire Dragon at Lagoon. These are super tiny models, you actually can't get much smaller for a roller coaster, but one of the reasons I went with that is because eventually we will get more intermediate coasters and it won't be such a bad jump from a ride like this to a ride like Lumberjack or Kalia. You'll notice that I went with the model of train that has the dragon head on front, and the main reason for that is I want this kids area to be medieval themed. It's going to be very light theming to be fair, but I want to keep it a bit consistent. You'll notice at the end of the episode that I never actually named this land, so I'll make sure to come up with something by the end of the episode, or if you have a good name you can leave it in the comments. I decided to make the station of the ride look like a castle. Again, we're not going with anything crazy for the theming, but I want to do enough that it looks good. I felt like the kids area was still feeling kind of barren, so I decided to go in and attempt to build a playground in the area. Playgrounds in theme parks aren't super common, but they also aren't rare enough to where I feel like it's unrealistic to have one. It's gonna be super tiny, basically just a bridge and a slide, but I've never built one in the game, so it does take me a bit of time. You probably noticed how close this kids area gets to the employee area of the park that I started working on, so I'm just making sure I add enough fences and trees that you can't see it from the inside. In a future episode where we have a bit more of an off season, I'll use that time to make this backstage area look better. Foliage has never been my strong point in this game. I've just never been great at it, so I know some of this doesn't look amazing, but I'm trying my best. I decided to add a restaurant into the kids area, just a small hot dog stand, and this time I actually remembered to build a dining area, so that'll come shortly after. Even though it takes a ton of extra pieces, I like using these custom curbs on my path because I think the default ones are a little too small. I also think the more you customize the little things in the game, the less it feels like playing a coaster and the more it feels like your own park. One thing I really look forward to with Planet Coaster 2 is an update to the path system, because while this one isn't unusable, I don't think it looks the most realistic. So that's pretty much everything I end up doing in this episode. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to save the custom cues for off-screen to try to keep the runtime down on these. But by next episode, I'll make sure to fix that, and I'll also make sure to put the guest spawner in so that we can actually have some people in the park. Otherwise, the park additions might slow down for a year or two, mainly because I want to keep it realistic and not give the park an unlimited budget. But I will tease that I already have the theme and spot for the next land picked out, so maybe we'll get a head start on that in the next few episodes. I also don't think it's a bad idea that every few episodes we do an off-season where we can just go around and focus on fixing the smaller things in the park and making them look better. I don't know if I'm going to record those necessarily, but those will happen every now and then. Otherwise, you can expect episodes of this pretty often because, like I said, I want to catch up to 2024 before Planet Coaster 2 comes out, and currently we're only in 1989. Just a couple more paths to finish up, and then we're going to do a POV of that kiddie coaster, so I'll wrap it up here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.